We're going to talk about creating a budget. And so I'm going to be going through the different steps that are involved in actually creating a budget from scratch. But before I begin, I have to go ahead and warn you that if this is the first time that you've ever created a budget, it's probably going to be a little difficult and your budget might not work the first time that you try it. It might not work. It's probably going to take a couple of months of trying and possibly failing with your budget in order to get the hang of it enough that you will start budgeting, effectively. So if that happens to you, don't lose heart. Give yourself some grace and keep trying because you will get the hang of it. All right, so the first step in creating your budget is to gather your materials. And the materials that you're going to need are first, your calendar, whether that's your Google Calendar, the calendar on your phone, or a paper planner or something else. You need to have your calendar, your social calendar, your whole entire life calendar, the school, whatever you want to call it, in front of you whenever you create your budget. The next thing that you will need is your bank statements. So 90 days worth of bank statements. So that's the last 3 months of bank statements you're going to need, whether that's the digital copies or the paper copies, totally up to you how you want to handle that. And you're going to need your last 3 months of income. So whether that's your income payment or your paycheck stubs, from your bank account, however you earn your living, you need to know what your last 3 months of income. And of course, you're going to need a calculator, at least a piece of paper, and a pen. Now, for this first time you're going to do this, you're going to use a paper and a pen to create your budget. You can eventually put this into a spreadsheet. You can use a fancy budget software like Personal Capital or something else. Totally up to you. But the point of doing it on paper first is it really helps you dive deep in the numbers. It's probably going to be a little bit messy. You're going to be probably scratching some things out, rewriting a few things. So it's going to kind of get you into this process and into the habit of creating a budget. After you have your materials for your budget, the next thing that you're going to do is assess your income. So you're going to go through either your paycheck stubs or your bank statements or, again, however else you earn your income from the last 90 days, last 3 months. You're going to go through and see how much income you earned in that time period. If you receive a regular paycheck, so you have like a paycheck stub or you get paid every week or every other week or maybe once a month, if you receive a regular paycheck, it's a little bit easier to figure out your income. All you need to do is just add up how much you get paid every single month, and that's your monthly income total. If your income varies, it's best to take an average. So you would add up all 3 months of income that you earned and then divide by the number 3. And then you will come up with your average over a 3-month time period for your income. So after you have figured out how much money it is that you earn, how much income it is that you receive on average every single month, the next step is to figure out your expenses. This one is usually the hardest and most tedious task of budgeting, and this is where a lot of people just say, oh, I'm done, I'm not doing it. But this is so important. If you don't know how much money you're spending, then it doesn't matter how much you're making because chances are you're probably spending every last dime that you earn. In order to keep that from happening all the time, you need to make sure that you go through your expenses. If you have your last 3 months of bank statements in front of you, I want you to go through those bank statements. Get a bunch of different highlighters, different color highlighters or color pencils or pens or something that's different colors. So then that way you can go through and highlight the similar categories. So something like groceries or utilities or dining out or clothes or whatever. So you just pick a color for those different categories and then highlight those expenses that coordinate with that particular category and add them up. You want to do this for the last 3 months, which I know is, again, it's tedious. I know. So you need to dedicate a whole day to this, but this is super, super, super important. Go through and figure out those expenses for those different categories. Make sure you tally them up and you divide them by 3. That's going to give you your average that you spend every month on those categories. Again, these are averages, so there might be some months where you spend way more and some months where you spend way less, which is why it's important that you have your calendar in front of you because that's going to help you figure out exactly how much to budget into those categories as well. But for this exercise, you're going through it and you're just figuring out those expenses and categorizing them and adding them up and taking your 3-month total. It's very important that you know how much money it is that you're spending on these different things. This is the only way you'll be able to make sure that you are budgeting effectively. So after you know what your expenses are for every single month, the next thing you're going to have to do is create your budget, which means that you're going to have to write down what your average monthly income is, and then you're going to have to list out your categories and enter in your averages for those categories. But the other thing you're going to do is look over your calendar and see what events you have coming up and making sure those are accounted for in your budget. So do you have any doctor's appointments coming up? If so, and that requires you to pay a copay, you need to make sure that you have that copay listed. You have dentist appointments, hair appointments, someone's birthday party, et cetera, et cetera. You need to make sure that all of these events that could possibly cost you money are entered into your budget in some form or fashion. And then once you've done all that, you need to take your income and then subtract out your expenses and see what your total is. The goal of budgeting should be to have a zero balance after you had taken your income minus your expenses. If you don't have a zero balance, then you're going to have to go back through your budget and see what's going on. If your balance is negative, that means that you are spending more money or planning to spend more money than you actually make. And so in that case, you're going to have to go back through your budget and figure out what expenses you can either completely cut out of your budget or what expenses you can reduce from your budget in order to get that balance back down to zero. But on the other hand, if your balance is a positive balance, meaning that your expenses outweigh your income, which is obviously a great problem to have, the solution to that problem is to make sure you're taking that excess amount of money and you're doing something that will benefit your future with it. So whether you're saving money in an emergency fund, paying off debt, putting money towards retirement or your children's college education, something, taking that excess money that you have in your budget and applying it to better your future self. And that is the whole process to setting up a zero balance budget in order to make it work. And so that is the whole process of setting up your budget. I'm going to include a link in the description of this video where you can get a free budgeting guide that's kind of going to go over everything I just talked about. Plus it's got budget worksheets for you to work through. It's completely free. But really that's it. That's it to setting up a budget. The hard part about budgeting though is sticking to it. So after you've created this awesome budget of yours, I need you to make a commitment to actually stick to it, which is going to be so hard. I know it is. But again, like I said in the beginning of this video, the only way you're going to make it happen is if you keep practicing. So even if you stumble and fall with this a little bit, it's okay. Pick yourself back up and keep going. Keep trying. Keep making sticking to this budget a priority for you and for your family. And you will see amazing success with your money.